Hey everyone, so as we continue into our unit on urban environments, today we're going to talk about what factors determine and affect, or any other word that you can think of, where do people live within cities, so residential areas. So in terms of thinking about cities themselves, a number of different factors really impact where the settlement tends to go. So in terms of the size, the growth, the function of all of these places. And so in extreme environments, this tends to lead to smaller settlements that are more isolated because not as many people want to live there because the environment is too harsh to provide food. And that also, caps the number of people that can live there because there's not enough food to go around. And so the settlements that really grow tend to grow where there is more food. And so some areas are therefore going to see more natural urban growth because of that. So for instance, the Northeast USA, that has settlements on lowland coastal plains that are both able to support farm, but are close enough to ports to be able to send stuff out and for trade. You also have cities with links inland through rivers and other means. So places like New York City, but even going up through the Hudson River Valley that is right there. And these are able to grow because of their proximity and their ability to travel because of these waterways. However, all urban areas are going to change over time. And that is going to happen in several different ways. The first one is size. The second one is importance, and then also a pattern of settlement. And so that pattern of settlement is something that we're really going to hone in today on as we talk about residential areas. So in terms of thinking about planned cities, as well as growth processes in some of these cities, we talked about planned cities the other day being a type of city where the central planning has been really thought out in order to maximize the efficiency, the sustainability, the living practices, the buildings, making sure that the city can be as successful as possible. But as cities grow, they are going to wield great centralized power for nations. And so because of that centralized power, you have to have a lot of centralized planning in order to make sure it's as successful as possible, like I said. And so this is especially true for nations where one particular city sort of dominates the power within that city. So for instance, England, London is by far its biggest city and its most successful one. And so for that reason, like the planning that goes on there is incredibly important. And the same for Seoul, South Korea, where Seoul is by far the biggest city. And so countries have attempted to reduce the overswell of people in these cities by starting to plan out some new cities. So for Seoul, there was a city called Gwangju Yonggi, and this was planned to be the new capital of Korea starting in 2020. They've since changed the plan and have determined that Seoul will remain the capital. Seoul is right near the border with North Korea, and so the thought was not only can we build a new city where less people will be living so that we can, sort of cap off the groundswell that's happening in Seoul, but also strategically we can move it further away from the North Koreans who are not, the government there is not necessarily the most stable, if I can speak so kindly. So the relocation of people from Seoul, though, is still going to be necessary, and that's where Gwangju Yonggi is going to be helpful and important. And so it can help to ease the chronic overswelling. It can help redistribute some of that state wealth that is there. It can also reduce the impact of a military attack from North Korea, like I said. But you also have another city known as Putrajaya that is in Malaysia. This is another planned city. This is about a 30-year-old city at this point. And it was designed to ease overcrowding in Kuala Lumpur, which is the biggest city by far in Malaysia at this point. And this was really built according to a lot of different central planning for strict policies in land usage, transportation systems, utilities, to make sure that this particular city might be able to cut down on some of the issues that other cities face. And so all of those things were thought through as they go here. And here we see a couple pictures. The picture on the left is Ganju Yonggi in South Korea, and then the picture on the right is Putrajaya. And you can see that both of these show off that newness to them in terms of how they are planning out these cities. So when looking at urban issues, even though cities really bring a great deal of help and power to countries, and they make significant contributions to the economic wealth of a nation, they also lead to a lot of different problems, especially in areas where the growth of those cities is a little bit less managed. And so these can lead to high rates of unemployment because there's not enough jobs, there's not enough infrastructure. If the urban area is not able to absorb the growing number of job seekers, then that can lead to homelessness. Insufficient housing and shelter could be there, in addition to what I just talked about. People may have a job, but if there are no houses to be had, and contractors and other professionals are not there to be able to build these houses, then that can lead to the growth of what we call slums or squatter settlements. And then also overloaded and overcrowded transport systems. We see here a picture on the bottom right corner of a train in India where there's just so many people, and there's not enough trains to support the number of people who are trying to go to where they need to go. And it can also lead to pollution in several different ways: air, water, noise. You may also see deteriorating infrastructure, shortfalls in service industries like public transportation or waste disposal, because these cities are so overcrowded and unable to deal with the sheer number of peoples. You'll also see growing inequalities between the haves and the have-nots in terms of areas that are impoverished versus not. Inadequate sanitation and water supplies that can lead to health problems as well. And then social problems. When people do not get the things that they need, you may see some of these negative social outcomes as people attempt to get the things they need in order to not only survive but to thrive as well as people. And so crime rates may go up, suicide rates, drug and alcohol addiction, family breakdowns, homelessness. All of these things can happen if the structure of society is unable to support the sheer number of people. And all of this leads into a term that we're going to be discussing throughout this unit, and that's the term of deprivation. And deprivation is not being able to receive all resources that are needed to survive or thrive within a given society. And so because of the variations in the quality of life for so many individuals, especially within growing megacities or growing cities, you may see this deprivation happen in several different ways. The first of these are physical indicators, like the quality of housing, the levels of pollution, crime, and vandalism. But there's also social indicators as well that can, teach us a lot about the deprivation that's happening. So the first one is crime, and this is both when you have an actual crime committed, but also the fear of crime. And that can oftentimes be as powerful, or if not more powerful, than the actuality of the crime themselves. You also have levels of health, access to care, standards of education that might all be part of this deprivation, the proportion of the population on government services like welfare, unemployment, disability, free school meals, and then the proportion of single parent households where obviously there's not two wages that are able to support the family. And then also economic measures, so access to employment, unemployment, underemployment, levels of income. When I talk about underemployment, I refer to when someone is not able to work as much as they possibly, could. Usually we say 40 hours of work is a normal work week. So if you're only able to get a job where you can only work 20 and they won't give you more hours, then that is underemployment. And then finally, political measures on this one as well. So opportunities to vote, take part in community organizations. If those things aren't there, then political deprivation is happening as well. With all of this deprivation, we talked about this term before, but the rise of slums and squatter settlements are something that's going to be important, especially in these mega cities that are rapidly growing. We talked about Lagos, Nigeria last unit. Because there's not enough houses being built for the number of people who are coming into the city, or they're not being built fast enough, or there may not be enough jobs, you're going to see these informal settlements that start to, pop up. And so in 2015, the total number of people living in slums stood at about 980 million people. So about 32% of the world's urban population were living in what is considered slums. And the UN defines a slum as lacking one or more of the following things. So for one, if it does not have durable housing, so protection from extreme climatic conditions, you don't have a roof over your head. It is a house, but the roof is leaking, or there's not enough. You don't feel safe in the place that you're at in terms of it physically falling or something like that. That would be part of this durable housing. Sufficient living space, so having no more than 3 people living and sharing a room. Access to improved water, so having access to sufficient, affordable water, and that it can be obtained without extreme effort on a daily basis. That would be, sort of working out of a slum area. And the unfortunate part is that a lot of people don't have access to that sort of water, because you're building in areas where the community themselves had to sort of set up, either water lines or irrigation pipes, or, those sorts of things. And so you may not have equal access to those things. Also, access to improved sanitation facilities, like having access to a toilet, and then secure tenure as well. So making sure that you have a secured place where the government or other forces might not just force you out one day, even though you've sort of built up this community. All right, so at this point, there are 2 different articles that are in your Schoology. So to learn more about residential living conditions and residential areas, go ahead and read those articles and then answer the questions in your notes organizer. If you have any questions, please let me know. But other than that, have a great day.